CSS stands for Cascading Stylesheets. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the cascading means. So to do that, I'm going to go and take a look first at our wireframe that we set up in a previous week. So here we're looking at the wireframe that I set up for celiactive.com, which is a site selling gluten-free products basically. And here's just a really basic structure that we conceived of earlier with the banner and two-column layout and some information below. Now I've gone ahead and created an example HTML page, and here it is, and I've done my best to structure each of these items in a div tag or in a header tag or something of the sort. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what that looks like in a browser. So here is that HTML page without any styles applied, just displayed as the browser reads the raw HTML. I don't really have real images, so I've just put in a couple of colored blocks. These are all just placeholder images, really. But you can see that the browser has its own way of displaying HTML. So by default, the browser says I'm going to style a list item with this round bullet. I'm going to style links with blue text with its underlined. I'm going to use a serifed font for text if nothing else is specified. And I'm going to have a white background if there's nothing else specified. And where I have a paragraph tag, I'm going to have space above and below that paragraph tag. So these are browser default styles that I didn't specify. These are just automatically used by the browser. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to now go to the I'm going to actually put in a link to an external style sheet. So I have created an external style sheet for this page. If we look at my root folder here, you can see that I have my folder on my computer called CeliActive, and this is my my root folder. Here's my index file. This is the home page. Then I have a folder for styles, and I have a folder for images. And I'm just opening up index.html directly on my browser, and that's what we're looking at here. And then what it's doing is it's linking to these images in my images folder. So I'm going to create a link now to this style sheet, main.css. I'm going to go back to my HTML page, and I'm going to configure the link element. Link rel equals style sheet, href equals, I got a link, I'm just going to do a relative link to the styles folder, and then to the file called main.css, because that's the name of, that's how you, what I've titled the CSS file. I've called it main, and then .css is the extension for a CSS file. Okay, so I'm going to put close that. Now I usually put an end slash here. That's habit from the old XHTML days. You can do with or without that, but I usually put it in. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now I'm going to come back to my page, and I'm just going to refresh. Now all of a sudden, you see I have some basic styles here that are going off of my linked style sheet. So these are overriding the browser default styles. So back to our diagram here. Here's the browser default styles. Now that we've linked to an external style sheet, the browser is using those styles before it's going to its own default styles. And if you want to see my style sheet here, I'll show you. Main.css. Here are all of my styles that are in main.css. There aren't very many yet, but there's a few here just to demonstrate. So I have some styles on my body tag, and then I have another div that I'm styling, and then I'm styling the header, and I'm styling the heading 1 element. And so those few styles are giving us this look here. So let's go down the next level of cascading. So let's say I'm going to go back to my HTML page. The next level in our cascading is embedded styles. So I'm going to put in the style tag, which is the tag that is used if you want to put CSS styles in the head tag of your document. So I can actually just embed CSS styles here in the head. And so I'm going to go ahead and use the style tag, and I'm going to override the styles that are currently being used in the external style sheet for the header. So you'll notice that if I switch over to my main.css file, I have a style on the header that puts a background color of 6699cc, and that's that blue color. That's the hexadecimal code for that blue color that we had on the header. Instead, I'm going to come in the head of my page in the style tag. I'm going to put in a style for header, put in my opening and closing curly braces, put in a style of background color. I'm just going to pick something different, so I'll go 33 CC 66. I'll put a semicolon to close that style, and let's just go ahead and save. Now we'll switch over, take a look at the page, and here we haven't refreshed yet, so there's our original header looking blue. That's using our external style sheet. I'll refresh, and now all of a sudden our header is looking green. Now I haven't changed anything in the external style sheet. The color is still the blue color that we selected in the external style sheet, but we've put in an embedded style that's that green color, and that is being used by the browser in lieu of what's on the external style sheet. So you can see here, if we go back to our diagram, now the embedded style is taking precedence over the external style, which in turn is taking precedence over the browser default. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we do an inline style. So now I'm going to switch back to my HTML page, and let's just go to that same header, and I'm going to put in an inline style now. So I'm going to do that with the style attribute on the header, and I'm just going to say background color, and let's go C3333. Again, put my semicolon to close off that style, and then I'll come and save. Okay, now let's switch back to our browser, go look at our page. So here, right now, we haven't refreshed yet, so in the header we're seeing the green color that was specified in the embedded styles up in the head of the page. Now let's refresh, and now we have this kind of reddish looking color. And so now, going back to our document, we have the inline style in lieu of the embedded style, which was originally being used in place of the external style, which was originally being used in place of the browser default. So you can see how it's just cascaded down, and it's using what happens to basically be closest to the actual element itself. Now, we aren't going to really worry about HTML attributes. You can specify visual display of HTML in the attributes themselves, but that really isn't a practice we're going to want to encourage in this class. We're going to want to stick with CSS. So for the most part, just think about how this cascading works from the browser default down to the inline styles.